Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu wasallam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah amma ba'd. Recently, there's been this incitement campaign going on against Dearborn, Michigan, due to the fact that the city has over, I think now about 60% of the population of Dearborn are Muslims. That's including the east and west side both, because there's east side Dearborn, which is about roughly 90%. Arab descendants, and then you have the west side of Dearborn, which is about 50-50 or so. So the point is, this incitement campaign has been going on for a few months now against the city with false accusations against people living here in Dearborn. These individuals, or the origin of these claims, often arises from, of course, Islamophobic rhetoric, Islamophobic media. Not only the Islamophobic mainstream media, but also the political or the social media influencers and the journalists who are, anti-Islam and Islam antagonists, and also for political grifting or political opportunities that these people see in launching this campaign against the city for one reason or another. And many times they lie, they use cherry-picking tactic and isolated incidents. Or even unverified online claims. So the most recent of these incidents is what took place on Friday, the 31st of October, when they allegedly found a few people who had some ties to ISIS, or they had like a plot to, they were plotting to engage in some terrorism acts and so on. First of all, we as Muslims, as conservative Muslims, we don't ever condone any kind of act of violence living in this country, living in this land. Not only talking about us citizens of this land, but Muslims in general, those who come in here, even with visas, immigrants and so on, migrants, whatever you want to call them. They have the agreement and the covenant to live as law-abiding citizens or law-abiding residents, in the sense that they are also subject to being on good social behavior in civil matters, in terms of never inciting any violence and never plotting any attacks and so on. We are completely against that. You don't ever find us condoning this stuff. We'll refute the disbelievers based on knowledge, especially those who are anti-Islam and who always continue to spew anti-Islamic rhetoric with knowledge based upon Quran, based upon the authentic tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and reason also that relate to these particular issues that these people bring up. But you'll never find us inciting violence against anyone. This is not from the religion of Islam to go around acting in such manner. So don't ever conflate the conservative Muslims in the area with those who are actually influenced by these deviant, we call them the Khawarij, the outlaws ideologies, in which they will excommunicate Muslims first and foremost. They will plot perhaps against Muslims before anyone else, just so you know, by the way. Now, so the reality is that Dearborn is a very diverse city. Okay, you have many different people from many different places, and you'll find even many police officers, many law enforcement agencies in the city are ran by, or they have a large number of Muslims in, or Arab in, right? Arabs in the police department, even perhaps in the FBI itself, right? In the Homeland Security, on the borders, the border, you'll find Muslims working on the border. So and you also have a high number of Muslims who are physicians in the area. So this is not anti-Islamic and Islamophobe or antagonist. If he ever gets really sick or has to go to the ER, more likely than not in Dearborn, he'll have a Muslim Arab doctor treating him, attempting to save his life. You know what I mean? So these people and what they're claiming, what they're saying is only fear-mongering tactic. If it stems from their deep hatred towards Islam itself, and we understand that. We don't expect the disbelievers, more so those who are antagonists and who continuously spew false narratives about Islam. We don't expect them to act in any other way, but we're just right now we have to be not only on the defense of warding off and refuting these false allegations against people of the city, which incite violence, but we also expose their flaws and falsehood. But about this part, inciting violence, this kind of rhetoric definitely does incite people to, la qadar Allah, may Allah the Almighty, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid this from happening, but incite people to commit acts of violence and perhaps commit an atrocity similar to the likes of what happened in New Zealand just a few years ago, whenever this individual who's a hardcore Christian walked into one of the couple masajid and started just spraying people down. He killed over 50. So how is that far-fetched from happening in Dearborn because of this rhetoric? There has already been a couple foiled plots by people who are attempting to commit terrorism acts of terror against Muslims in the community. But obviously that's not amplified and doesn't get the mainstream coverage that if it were to be a Muslim, if that perpetrator or the person who attempted or was plotting these actions was a Muslim, would then otherwise get. Yeah, so those people who are arrested in Dearborn, they obviously are not upon the sound methodology of the people of Islam, more so Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, which always warn against having this kind of ideology and having this kind of this kind of as ISIS influences. That is, even if that's true, whether it's true or not, we always warn against these individuals, and you find that constantly in our classes, not in spite of Islam, but because that's what Islam teaches us. Okay, we live in this particular country. Although we completely are opposed to its the system itself and the overseas or the foreign policies which support and enable the genocide that was taking place in Palestine, Gaza, and other places. And this is even like a right-wing Republican has these kind of that kind of speech and those kind of feelings, and has that sentiment against this particular government and so on. But only it's something that only is shed light upon when it's coming from a Muslim, and they try to smear and vilify the Muslims who speak in that kind of manner for their own political agendas, or because of their extreme deep-rooted hatred against Islam, to the extent that they some of them are clearly coming out and just speaking in a very blunt manner against Islam and the Muslims. Deport these people, get them out of here. Just hate speech and hate rhetoric, inciting violence, which you won't find us calling to. You don't find a Muslim inciting violence against any other community, religious community in the area or in the country in general. We'll refute them. We'll point out their flaws and their double standards, but without ever inciting violence. Okay, so if you don't have the ability to refute people's falsehood based upon knowledge, based upon sound reason relative to the principles they claim they adhere to, then in this case, there's nothing else that a person would call to. You don't call to violence. Is not the action. Is not the solution in this kind of context. Abadan. We never call for that. So these kind of claims are the vast majority of those claims are baseless. They're lies to smear the people living here, and they incite violence against the Muslims here, against the women wearing the hijab. Many of them don't feel safe going out to the local grocery store to purchase their needs, because they might encounter someone in the parking lot or inside who may try to harm them in one way or another. So this is extremely irresponsible, and leave your bigoted feelings to yourselves. At least don't incite. Okay, and that's all basically I wanted to just say about this issue. والله المستعان وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.